The Global Voice presents
Voices.
Greeting, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome indeed to another edition of Voices. I have a very special guest with me this time, but before I get into that, let me tell you a little bit about me, because it is in fact relevant. As many of you know, I am a trans woman and transitioned some 12, 13 years ago now, fully that is, and that means post-operation, all that stuff. Now, at the time, I was married and had been for some 20 odd years. And my wife, Mary Lou, had a vague inkling of my problem, but eventually it got to the stage where either I had to do something about it, and this is one of the things, it's a serious thing, you don't do this sort of thing on a whim, you really don't, or I might not even be here. Now the problem was, of course, that poor Mary Lou had no one with which to turn, for whom to turn for advice. Now, my special guest today is Avril Clark, who, amongst other things, she's a versatile person, believe me, amongst other things, runs a support group for husbands, partners, etc. of trans people. Avril, welcome to Voices.
Thank you very much for having me, Chrissy.
So, I know you are married to a trans person, so what gave you the idea of sort of starting up a group for people like that? I presume part of the reason was there were no services available when you went through all this?
Yeah, I've been with my wife for 21 years and we got married 11 years ago. And she told me quite early in our relationship, because it was second time round for us. And it was obvious that it was going to be a quite serious relationship. So she told me, and actually I was okay with the situation. You know, it was not what I was prepared for at all. You know, she was presenting male, and I thought I was getting a man,
exactly.
not a woman. But I looked around because there was a lot of support. I mean, the internet was there back in those days, but there was a lot of websites or a lot of groups. A lot of things ran off Yahoo groups back in those days, and there were a lot of groups there for trans people, or community people is probably a better way, because terminology changed so much over the years. And I made a few noises to a few of the groups. There was one in particular that was quite a busy group. It was called the UK Angels. And they then decided they'd create a partner forum. And that was great. And that was somewhere to go. But the thing is, it was full of people that were really angry, or people where their partners weren't trans as well. Obviously, the trans umbrella is very wide. And the distinction between one end of the spectrum to the other is huge. And I didn't find anybody that really was in the same situation that I was in.
Can I just wander off at a quick tangent, Avril, if I may? How come you didn't get angry about the situation?
I don't know. Loads of people have asked me this question about, how come it wasn't such a big deal for you? I think some of this goes back to my upbringing. I was born in the 60s. My parents, they weren't hippies and they weren't radical or anything, but my mother in the 50s and 60s had been a dressmaker up in London in Soho, working for the fashion houses up there. So she had seen a lot of different people. My dad came from a different type of family to my mum, but all the way through my childhood, I was told, I've got 2 sisters and a brother as well. And we were all told, whoever you are, we will love you. If you're gay, they didn't mention trans because it wasn't on their radar particularly. But whoever you are, we will love you. But during my teenage years, I spent a lot of time with LGBT community people. I just seemed to fall in to some of those friendship groups. And one of my friends actually when I was 15, and this is in the mid-70s, they transitioned as well, which back in those days for a teenager to transition and to transition in the 70s as well, that was a big deal. And they weren't one of my close friends, but they were somebody I knew to speak to, and we had lots of conversations together. So it wasn't something that I didn't know about. And being totally honest, I always watched all the TV programs. you had all the TV programs that came out about. There were some in the 70s.
There were indeed. Yes,
people.
I used to watch them avidly too.
Yeah, you used to. So watch. Obviously, you were watching it for one reason. I don't know why, but obviously, all of it. It's like there was something that knew what was coming, and it was like, well, we'll educate you now, so you're ready.
A nice way of looking at it, but it's interesting because when it happened to me and I had to make that decision, do I transition or do I get out of this world, sort of thing? I know it's a hard thing to say, but even then I thought to myself, that is terribly difficult for Mary Lou, simply because she's got to do two things. A, she's got to try and be supportive to me, but then she's got to be supportive to herself, because I honestly didn't know how to help her, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is, there's two transitions that happen when a partner transitions. There is the trans person that transitions, and then their partner also transitions, because your life, when you're with a trans person, and you'll go through that whole process of transitioning, your whole life changes. People perceive you differently. Your outlook, things that you look at, and how you live your life completely changes. And if you're in a straight heterosexual relationship, it's so easy. It is so easy to go and live your life, and nobody bats an eyelid at you. Sometimes maybe if somebody's a bit funky dressed, not conforming to stereotypical dress that people wear, maybe that attracts a bit of attention, or you have different colour hair, so if you're a little bit diverse, but generally, in a heterosexual relationship, you just go and live your life. But the moment that you change the dynamics in that, whether it then becomes a same-sex relationship or it becomes something different, or one of you becomes something that maybe does draw attention from other people, then there's a whole big thing that you're dealing with. And it's not just you're dealing with your own feelings, but you want to support your partner as well.
That must be quite difficult, actually. Surely that really must be quite difficult, because deep down, surely, as you said at the beginning of the program, you married a male, and it must be difficult to provide 100% support. I would have thought, now I could be wrong and I hope I am, but I would have thought it would be difficult. I'm not on that side, so I genuinely don't know.
For me personally, I haven't found it the challenge that other people have, but because of the support group that I run, I see the challenges that people face in trying to make their relationships work. I see what they go through. Some of it depends on how the trans person is as well, and how they're going through that journey. Some people, a lot of trans people have already sorted out in their mind the process that they're going to do to transition before they tell their partner. So they literally, day one, they tell their partner. Day 2, they're already at the doctor's. Day 3, they're at the gender clinic, because they've already done this.
Wouldn't it work that fast, dear? Wouldn't it work that fast? And that's also a problem, surely, isn't it? Because you've got huge long waits between things these days. For example, if you want to get your first appointment with a psychiatrist or whatever, you could wait after a year or so. Now, how do you cope with that as a person supporting the trans person who's getting more and more upset because of the time they're having to wait and all the nasties that go with that?
It's hard. It's hard, and I think here in the UK as well, there is. If you go through the NHS gender clinics, they're still stuck in the dark ages with requirements that they need before they will actually issue any medication as well. When they say to you as a trans woman, you've got to have lived your life as a trans woman for 2 years before we give you any hormones. Well, you need the hormones to help you live that life as a trans woman for those 2 years. So it causes lots of frustrations. And it's when for me, when my wife Lucy made the decision that she was going to transition, she wanted hormones now. She wanted them then.
You do.
For her, it was, I think it was over 2 years before the NHS issued them. So we actually used a private service to enable her to start her transition before she even had her first GIC appointment. But it's all that process, all this, everything you do, whether you do it private or NHS, it's a process that you have to go through. And it doesn't happen overnight as well, because I think some trans people and a lot of partners think, the moment they're on HRT, everything changes that day. Yeah, and it doesn't. These changes take months. Some cases they can take years for any of those, for the results of the hormones to really, really show on the person. And
which, of course, can be good, isn't it? Because that gives a gentler transition curve from the point of view of the partner.
It does, and it lets people get used to the idea. There's people in my group, and when you were introducing at the beginning, there are cisgender male and female people. We have non-binary people in the group as well, because they are supporting, if they've got a trans partner or a non-binary partner or a gender fluid partner, this is what we're about. We're about supporting those. But it's not heterosexual people either. It's the same situation that a straight person may face when their partner transitions to the opposite sex. It's the same worries and fears that go through when you have same-sex relationships where one partner then is transitioning away, and they're dealing with similar issues, not exactly the same. For a lot of the same-sex relationships, there's a lot of anger about they've fought to be recognised as a same-sex relationship and for their identity to be what it is, a gay or queer identity, and then suddenly now they're being perceived as being straight. So there's a lot of anger that comes with that and a lot of confusion, just as much as when you have somebody that is heterosexual having to deal with having a same-sex relationship with somebody because their partner has transitioned or is transitioning.
Interesting. Do you find there is a difference between the way that a man will deal with it with a trans woman partner and a female would deal with it with a trans man partner? Do men and women react generally, and I'm talking very, very generally, differently?
I think they do, and that something that is inherent, because I actually belong to, as well as having my own support group, I actually belong to quite a few other ones, because I feel that I am in a position to help people. I can see people, and different groups have different standards as well about the discussion and people they invite into those groups as well. And one thing that's quite inherent in all the support groups is the lack of cisgender male people that are actually seeking support. There are some, and we've had discussions with them, and why did they think that these cisgender males are not seeking support so much as the cisgender females are? And I think it's because a lot of cisgender males hold on, and they've got this stoic thing.
Macho,
they can
I'm
can
gonna
deal
get
with
through
it.
this regardless.
Yes, I will be fine. I will deal with it. But more and more, I'm actually finding in the last year, we are getting more and more cisgender males that are actually joining groups now and seeking support, which is fantastic, because they all need support. Everybody does, whether you admit it or not. Everybody needs. It's lovely not lovely, but when you're on a journey of something that's affecting you and gives a bit of self-reflection. I think you have to do a bit of self-reflection sometimes in this. It's easier when you've got people that have a trans partner that you can confide in. The opinions may be different, the journey may be different, and the outcome may be different, but to have somebody that truly understands what you're going through is really, really important.
And is your group solely for the UK?
No, it's a global support group. It started in the UK, and actually, in all honesty, I actually didn't start the group. It was started by somebody else back in 2014. And I found the group, and there were literally 20 people in this group. But it was the first time I'd found my place where I belonged, because it's a group for supportive partners. It's for people that want to make their relationship work.
Is that the majority, do you think, that want to make it work? Or do you think that a lot of them just, I'm out of this, bye?
I think it's an even split. And I think it depends on the people that are supporting the partner when they find out as well. Yeah, I know from my own experience, I had people around me that were like, no, I couldn't be with her. I couldn't have a trans partner. I would have to leave, no. And when you've got that noise around you, if you're feeling uncertain and they're filling your head with untruths, because a lot of it is misconceptions about what it's like to be with a trans person or what a trans person is like. I think you have some people, no, definitely I can't do it. But I've had people in our group that have joined saying, I love my partner, but I can't stay with them, but I want to try and support them. And I've had them join being very anti, but trying to, at the end of their journey, they've actually stayed together and they're 100% supportive. So it's about surrounding yourself with the right people, not people that are going to say yes and agree with everything, because, as I said earlier, every journey is different, but it's about helping you find your way on that journey. And that's what was so special about this group. However, the person that was running it initially, and this happens actually quite a lot with partners, their partner was a trans female, and then they discovered that they themselves were non-binary transmasculine.
Oh dear.
So they decided that it wasn't right that they should run a support group. So by this time I was helping them run it, because they'd sidestepped it because of their own issues with their identity. They'd kind of sidestepped the group. So I actually had been running the group for a couple of years for them, and they came to me and said, look, I wouldn't trust this group with anybody else other than you. Will you please take over this group? Which I gladly did. I did that in 2017. I took over the group, and at that time I think there were about 70 partners that we had in the group. And it was predominantly UK based. Now, as of this day in 2022, we have nearly 450 partners that are on the group, and they are from across the world.
And what's your percentage male to female, do you reckon?
I reckon it's still a very high, probably 90% cisgender females that we have in the group. We do have a small proportion of cisgender males, and we have an even smaller proportion of non-binary or gender questioning people that are in the group as well, because I wouldn't say it's common, but it's not uncommon that a partner then questions, when they're looking at the identity of their own trans partner, that they then make discoveries about themselves. And I wouldn't say, as I said, it's not common, but it's not one of those things you go, oh, that never happens. Yes, it does happen sometimes, and probably happens more than people think it does as well.
Now, I am known for forgetting to ask people to give details of their website. First of all, let me ask you, is this an entirely private group? In other words, it's closed, etc.?
Yeah, it's actually run out of a Facebook group because we found that was the best way to run it. And it's a private and secure Facebook group, which means nobody can find it. It's hidden. So if you were to search for it in Facebook, you wouldn't find it. We have a public page on Facebook, but we have a website, which is distinctionsupport.org. And you can apply to go to the group either through the contact page there or from the open page that we do have on Facebook. But every person that wants to come into the group has to come through me, and I talk to every single person to check that they are the right person to put into the group.
By talking, do you mean face-to-face talk or just via text? No,
it's just sometimes it's on the phone, sometimes it's on email, sometimes it might be on Zoom, where I just get to know a little bit about them and their circumstances. They also have to add me. I've got a special profile that I use on Facebook for adding people to this group that's completely away from anything else that I do, which enables me to check them out as well, so I can have a look. I can quickly have a look and I can see is there anything negative on their Facebook with things that they are posting in the public domain as well, especially at the moment with all the anti-trans discourse. I'm very, very aware that I have to keep this a safe space for people to have their journey, and they need to learn on that journey, which is full of highs and it's full of lows as well, but it's a lot of partners supporting each other, and I need to keep that as the safe space that it is. And there are some people that I can't let into the group because of their situation and they're too angry, but it doesn't mean I cut them off, because that's the worst thing, when somebody's reaching out for help. So I stay in contact with those people and I privately support them as much as I can myself.
Yeah, the mere fact that they've reached out, I agree. Now, you are, as I've said before, a multifaceted person. I believe, rumour tells me that you run a radio station.
Yes, I do. I'm a co-founder of a radio station with my wife. I don't know. I run, myself and Lucy, we run Trans Radio UK. It was something that we set up, or Lucy set up one night, which we've been talking about it for a while, and thought it'd be a really good way to connect trans people together through, reach into people's homes through, not just through music, but through talking, because we're aware there's a lot of people that are in situations where they're not open and they can't get out. And we thought it'd be a really good idea. So we run Trans Radio, and it's now more than a radio station. It is a radio station, but we're trans activists.
You do quite a lot of campaigning, don't you? And Lucy.
We do,
yes.
Yes.
Not to mention having a football club now. Football team.
Yeah, we have TRUK United, which is the first in the UK fully inclusive football team, which is very, very exciting. And actually very, very soon we are, fingers crossed, going to have a world's first by putting out the first team with only made up from trans women, which would be a world's first. They've done something in India where they put out a team with trans men. But if we can put out a team just with trans women in, that would be a world first. So that is happening. At the moment, we're in the middle of sorting that out. And we also run a helpline for the trans community as well called TRUK Listens.
Yes, tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, TRUK Listens was set up because during the pandemic, initially in 2020, we had a lot of people reaching out to us because of the radio station, because they knew who we were, they knew the voices on the station, and they thought of us as a safe space. And we had people reaching out for help, just needing someone to talk to, needing a bit of advice. And we were doing it with some of the team as well. And it was, it was just, as and when we were replying, and we thought we need to do something more. And we had planned doing a helpline to bring in this year, actually in 2022, but we brought it forward into 2020, and we started off as just a text service, and then last year we turned it into a WhatsApp and voice phone call, because we found 96% of the people that we were having communications with actually wanted to talk to somebody. And it's quite a busy helpline, and it's run, I think, as of yesterday, 7 people we have running it. They are all from the trans community.
Are they trained?
They are. 6 of them are trained, 1 isn't, but the one that isn't is trained by experience. So, they're fully conversed, but we're also paying, because we managed to get a community fund grant from the National Lottery. We are putting people through courses as well. To, if they're already trained, we're enhancing their training. And if they're not trained, we're actually paying to put them through. So, it's a very busy time, and as we we don't want to have the helpline, but we have to have.
You'd rather it wasn't there, but it is necessary. Absolutely,
it is
necessary.
It is.
So, if there is a trans person listening and they feel that they might be in a position to help, be it as a counsellor, someone to listen, or administration or something, how do they get in touch with you?
They can send a message to info@TRUK, so that's TRUK Listens.org, and we will pick that up and we will speak to that. We're always looking for people to help, whether it's being a counsellor or helping with social media. There's lots of things that we could do, that we're always looking for that extra helping hand. It's very, very important.
We're getting near the end of the programme. You must have had some funny times during the course of running Trans Radio and this, that and the other. Can you relate any?
Oh my gosh, I have funny times all the time, every day. Oh my gosh, I will.
Dealing with idiots like me, yeah, I know.
Every day there's on the radio, there's always something. It's like we listen to some people, the requests that come in actually just before I came on this call with you. Somebody was requesting the Wombles, and I was rolling my eyes at, the Wombles on the radio. And then somebody else was saying about that they play Christmas songs all year at home, and on our radio station we kind of say Christmas songs are fine, but they are for December only. So
yes,
because I think people get fed up with that. But we've met a lot of lovely people, I have to say, through the radio station, and we also do events. So we go to prides, we get involved in trans prides. We also hold our own events. We hold summer parties and Christmas balls, and we've met so many lovely people. And the big takeaway for both of us on that is the radio station may have been formed by Lucy and myself. However, we're just the conduit. Trans radio is the people. It's every person that participates, whether it's a presenter, whether it's somebody helping behind the scenes, whether it's somebody listening, maybe it's somebody that's sending us messages. Every single person is trans radio. Trans radio is everybody. It doesn't belong to anybody. It belongs to all. And when we hear people, and when I go to when I'm doing demonstrations, as I do, sometimes when I'm out about and they see I'm from Trans Radio, they go, "Oh my God, Trans Radio, we love you." Absolutely amazing.
I'm afraid, believe it or not, we've run out of time, and on this radio station, time is rather important, so we will kill it here. Avril, I'd like to thank you very, very much for being on Voices, and I hope everything works out both for Trans Radio UK, TRUK Listens, the football team, and also your partner group. This has been Voices. I'm Chrissy Coughlin, another poor person in the hot seat, same time next week. Till then, next month, get it right, Chrissy, get it right. Next month, I'm out of here before anything else happens. Bye.
Voices.